Hi everyone, it's Autumn again. We are continuing with our video series to go over the testimonies in my life. If you have not watched the previous video before this, I would suggest that you do that for things to make sense, because I'm going in an order right now up until our present, and then we'll just kind of start daily blogging or every other day blogging about what's going on in our lives and what God is doing and what we're doing. So for now, it's just going to be one video a day until we catch up to where we're presently at. So I would watch the previous video before you watch this one, and everything will fall into place and make sense. So where I left off with the other video was when we had moved to South Dakota, and we had took the risk of taking our tax return with no job and no home lined up for us, and how God worked in our life in that time, which was an amazing, beautiful thing. Well, we had lived in South Dakota for about 6 months, and my husband in July was in a car accident. His friend was driving. They were out fishing early morning in a prairie land. When you live out in the prairie, there's a lot of washboard roads, kind of just dirt roads. And I guess they got washboard and they ended up rolling several times. His friend that was driving was actually projected out of the window. He was a very awesome Christian man. And he had several bones in his spine broken. He had bleeding in his brain. And I mean, he went through a really, really rough time. And my husband was the passenger. He did not have his seatbelt on either. And he was inside the vehicle every time it rolled, and he was able to walk away with several stitches and nothing too traumatizing. The crazy thing is that's the second rollover accident my husband has been into. When we were living in Las Vegas when my daughter was a baby, so he got cut off by somebody down by the airport, and he had rolled over into a water main off of Sunset Road, and he hit the only parked vehicle, a tree, and the water main, and the truck was upside down, completely flooded out. And he walked away from that accident as well, and he had no, he had a piece of glass stuck in his head, but nothing crazy. He didn't have to be hospitalized or anything. And right before that accident took place, he said for some weird reason he had an urgency to put his seatbelt on. And so he put his seatbelt on right before that happened. And so ultimately, God has saved my husband's life twice. So after that accident, my husband was out of work right away. He was a derrick man drilling for waters, so I mean, he used his body a lot, and there was absolutely no way he could return to work. Thankfully, we had his boss, they had helped us out with food. Just one second. Okay, sorry about that. My kids were interrupting a little bit. So his boss ended up helping us out with some groceries and diapers and things to help out our family. He also owned another company with his other son. It was a salvage yard. So he was able to work there, but I mean, he was making practically nothing. So we started to really fall behind on our bills. His mother had moved to North Dakota. We kind of all ventured out at the same time, his mom and his stepdad. And they moved to North Dakota instead of South Dakota, so we were kind of apart doing our own journey. And so they had gotten a house in Bismarck, North Dakota, and they offered us to come stay with them. And so we just decided to take that risk again. And so my husband kind of left the salvage yard. He wasn't making much, and he left there. And we packed all our stuff again, and we went to start over our life again in another town. He didn't have a job lined up, and we didn't have a house. We were staying with his mom at that time. So shortly after we got there, he immediately went searching for a job, and he actually found a job immediately. And he's always been so blessed to have a job and get a job very easily. And so he was gone a week at a time. He only came home on the weekends because the town he worked in was an hour away. And so that took place for about a month, and it really took a toll on our relationship. And just having a newborn baby, 3 kids. He had our only vehicle at the time. And so he ended up quitting his job out in, it was Fargo, North Dakota. And 2 hours later in Bismarck, he had another job, making more money. So it was such a blessing. He took the risk. He wasn't happy. He wanted to be with us. And so he was just confident that he could find another job and be with his family. And he did just that. Well, shortly after staying with his mom, it really was not accommodating for us. We were in a really tiny space in a basement and just an open room with all 4 of us. And there was just a lot of things that factored in, and we just really needed to get out. And our truck, so it was the first winter, like real winter that our truck had went through, and we didn't switch any of our fluids in it, and everything froze. So when my husband turned the truck over, it blew a bunch of stuff, and so our truck was broken down. And out there you can't really walk or take the bus or things like that. It is way too cold. It could get up to -40 in the winter time. And so I had posted on a local classified website about needing a cheap car. Well, I got a call from a woman that wanted to just give us a car, just give it to us free of charge, nothing. It was a very tiny car. It was very old. It wasn't perfect, but it did us good until we got our truck fixed. And I mean, that was definitely a godsend. For that to be blessed in our life was amazing. And I mean, I was so grateful. It wasn't perfect. The battery, I had to jumpstart the battery and get out and mess with it all the time. And I mean, there was a lot of things that was frustrating about it. Driving on black ice with it was terrifying. But I mean, we had a vehicle. We could get to point A and B, and it was just such a blessing, honestly. And then to get into our other house, we had posted on the classified website for this town as well. And I just kind of wrote down what our family was about, what we were doing, what we were looking for, because it was, the rental rate out there, I believe, was like 2%. It's nearly impossible. There's not enough houses for how big the boom was out there. So I mean, most houses had a waiting list. You were up against so many people, and if you had more money, you could just put the more money down and then they would take that. So it was really difficult. And so we had to really rely on God and have faith and trust that He would see us through this and that we would get into a house. And once again, I mean, we were willing to accept whatever. We didn't care how run down a place was. A place was a place, and we were okay with that. And God just He just showed up in an amazing way and gave us above and beyond what we could ever expect. And a gentleman had contacted me, and we talked for a really, really, really long time. And he was actually out of state, and we had met up with his dad and showed us the house, and they ended up choosing us to rent the house. And it was huge. It had a huge basement, second kitchen. It was I mean, the neighborhood it was in was all retired families. It was amazing, safe for the kids. And I mean, we just couldn't be more blessed. They worked with us with the payment as far as our deposits. And so again, God showing up in ways. I looked at that house and thought, yeah, no, we would never get into a house like that. And just to think the things that God made possible, because we trust in Him, we have faith in Him, we pray, we rely on Him, we go to Him and we seek Him. And He can make the impossible things possible. And I know that because He has done that in my life over and over and over again. And each time we decide to drop our life and literally start completely over, He shows up for us, and He gives us more than what we had before. We're always taking a step ahead. And I don't know how many second chances we could get, how many times we could restart our lives, because this was just the second time we have literally started over from scratch again. And I mean, I guess we continue to do that, but it really grows us. It really allows God to work in our lives and share these amazing testimony and stories. And so let me look on this paper. I wrote down, okay. So ultimately, that was just another great story. It looks like I covered everything that happened in that time period. And I really hope that it just inspires other people. And I mean, to really look at the positive when bad things are happening. And that has always kind of been my attitude. My husband struggled a little more with being the realist and realistic about things, because I am just, you know, I'm always think the best of everything and always good things are going to happen. And I'm glad that I get to compliment him in that way, because I believe a lot of things have happened because I have proven my faith and I have stayed firm with a positive attitude, and realizing that God is in control and he will always see us through the storm that we're in. And that has really motivated my husband to be such a strong follower of Christ himself. And so I just pray for you guys that are kind of going through similar struggles, that you just, you know, you wait for God to show up for you, and just don't forget to go to him in prayer. And if you pray and you have faith, you will receive it. And I just pray that you continue to share this message, and please subscribe to this channel, and that way we could get more people watching. And I'll quickly share, this is a little off topic, but my dream of this really is, I'm a very introverted person. I'm a person who has never asked for help. I always went to God, just expecting God to take care of everything. And I never went to people. And it did work at times, but through trials, I have learned that God shows up through other people. And now that I'm in a healthy place in my life and I'm able to come out of my comfort zone and talk to other people and make other people, Christians, a part of my life, and that it allows them to show up and help me. And that is God's way of working. God could show up in many different ways, and through other people, through their words, through their help, through their resources, is just some of the ways that God could show up. So I am praying that this touches somebody that is struggling with being introverted, or that has a hard time going to church, or you know, getting out and being around other people. I've never been comfortable in that kind of setting, and I have stayed inside for years. And so I know the feeling, and I just want this to hopefully help somebody else, to encourage them to step out and reach out to their community, and reach out to somebody within the church, and get the support, and have your brothers and sisters in Christ, and, you know, to be able to get the strength that you need to face the challenges in our life, in your life. And so I thank you so much, and I just hope you stay tuned to my following videos. Thanks.